Unexpected kindness. She treated a soldier to coffee. Little did she know his fortune was hidden. The rain drummed against the diner windows, an uninvited symphony reminding Emma of the gnawing weight on her shoulders. She poured a fresh cup of coffee for a weary soldier, Jack, who sat alone at the counter. His eyes told stories of far-flung battlefields haunted and heavy. Emma, her heart attuned to pain, offered the coffee on the house, only to realize she had initiated a connection vastly deeper than she had anticipated. They exchanged knowing glances, an exchange that spoke beyond words, and then he opened up, sharing tales of sacrifice and loss. She found solace in their shared burdens. After all, Emma too had known the sharp sting of dreams deferred. Her husband had been ambitious, brilliant, even, but life's responsibilities had snuffed out his flame, leaving Emma to carry the weight of their faded hopes alone. Yet as the afternoon's drizzle besieged the diner, a new storm brewed within her heart. The diner was more than a job, it was her sanctuary, and now, news of the property going up for sale shattered the very foundation upon which her life was built. The walls held memories. The booths shared laughter, but what good were walls if they were torn down? Anxiety coiled around her, and for an instant she could hardly breathe. The thought of uprooting her son, of losing everything she held dear, clawed at her gut. "Is everything all right?" Jack asked, his brow furrowing with concern. Emma hesitated, the shadows inching in. Could she reveal her plight, burden this stranger with her fears? But as she opened her mouth, the pain felt too heavy a weight she wore alone. Her inner turmoil twisted, cycling through determination to protect her son and the gnawing panic of spiraling into debt, of what the future might hold if her sanctuary crumbled. Before they could delve deeper into this fragile bond, Emma felt an immediate need to share her story to anchor him in the weight of her reality. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But Jack shifted in his seat, an emotion sparking in his expression. "Emma," he said slowly, the weight of his words palpable, "I have something to share too." His eyes glimmered with a blend of hope and fear as he revealed a secret, an inheritance tied to a great-uncle that could change everything. The room hummed with possibilities, yet as relief flickered, so did a moral quandary. What would this fortune mean for them? The balance of their destinies hung precariously between hope and burden. Two weary souls, both holding the promise of more but fearing the implications. The tension thickened, keeping them bound in an unspoken acknowledgement of how life could lift them, yet crush them as well. As the rain continued, Emma could feel the walls of the diner close in, her heart racing. Could she grasp the fragile thread of fortune Jack offered without losing sight of the grounding love in her life? Uncertainty loomed large, and she steadied herself against the counter. The stakes were rising, and with it, the urgency of their silent struggles. What would become of them both, especially as a newcomer stepped through the door, the bell jangling ominously, bringing news that might change everything yet again? Emma's heart pounded with escalating anxiety. Could their realities shift, or would they remain forever imprisoned by their choices? The newcomer stepped in, soaked from the rain, casting a long shadow across the diner's warm interior. Emma's heart lurched in response to the unexpected intrusion, her instincts flaring up as if to warn her of impending change. The bell jingled again, signaling potential disruption. Her attention swung back to Jack, whose expression morphed from momentary hope to uncertainty as the stranger approached. Emma could almost feel the tension in the air, a magnetic force drawing the newcomer closer to their tightly wound corner, where fragile confidences had just begun to take root. "Mind if I take a seat?" the tall figure asked, shaking droplets from his coat. His voice was calm yet commanding, carrying an authoritative weight. Emma recognized that tone. It was the kind used by someone who expected answers and wasn't afraid to demand them. Jack's grip tightened around his coffee, protective instinct flaring as he scanned the stranger's features. A knot twisted in Emma's stomach. This was no ordinary patron. The way he moved, the piercing gaze, everything about him suggested he had purpose beyond simply seeking warmth from the weather. Sure, Emma replied, her voice steadier than she felt. She busied herself with the coffee machine, pouring another cup in a bid to ease the mounting tension. She stole glances, trying to decipher the intentions hidden in the stranger's demeanor. There was something in his eyes, a recognition perhaps, or a shared sorrow. "Jack, isn't it?" the newcomer said, settling into a booth opposite. "I heard about your great-uncle's inheritance." Jack's gaze shot to Emma, bewilderment etched on his face. How could this man know about such a personal matter? Emma felt the heat of anxiety rise again. What secrets did this stranger hold? And more importantly, what did he want with Jack? "Who are you?" Jack's voice lowered, steady but revealing a hint of defensiveness. "Just someone looking out for you. You got yourself in quite a situation." "It's a family affair," the stranger replied. There was a knowing smile playing at the corners of his lips. Emma could sense the shift in atmosphere, the way Jack's body tensed as he braced for confrontation. The rain continued its rhythm against the diner, but the tempest within Emma intensified. This stranger bore no resemblance to anyone she knew, yet an instinct tugged at her, whispering that his arrival was not an accident. "Emma, you might want to hear this," Jack said cautiously, turning toward her. "It feels like he knows things he shouldn't." That pushed Emma into action. She sensed a defining moment at the threshold of her life. Jack's potential windfall was suddenly intertwined with her path, stretching out like vines creeping over the bricks of her sanctuary. "Let us hear him out," she said, her voice stronger than the trembling inside her. The weight of her own dreams pressed against her, a reminder that every decision could birth new realities. She had been afraid for so long, paralyzed by the constraints of circumstance. But here, now, she sensed an opportunity not merely to listen but to reclaim agency over her own narrative. Jack's eyes widened slightly, appreciating her defiance. "What's it going to be?" he asked, the challenge evident in his tone. "The truth," Emma decided with conviction, her choice firm, yet layered with uncertainty. "But know this, if any part of this conversation feels off, we walk away. Together." The stranger tilted his head, intrigued. The stakes were high, and Emma was aware she was standing at the edge of a precipice, ready to leap. But little did she know that the truth he carried might reveal not only Jack's reality, but also illuminate her own hidden desires and dreams. With her heart racing, Emma prepared to confront whatever lay ahead. They would unearth the depths of their choices together. As the stranger opened his mouth, every fiber of Emma's being braced for revelation. But at what cost? The stranger paused, as if weighing his words carefully. Emma's breath caught. What kind of truths were lurking in the murky waters of their lives? She studied him while battling her own anxiety, waiting for the collision of their paths to spark what she hoped would be the beginning of their liberation. "I have information that could change everything for you, Jack," the newcomer said, fixating on the younger man. His tone held a mix of gravity and intrigue that sent a shiver down Emma's spine. "Your family's past is riddled with complications you're unaware of, and the inheritance isn't just about money, it's an opportunity to uncover who you really are." Jack's lips pressed into a thin line, suspicion brewing in those deep-set eyes. Emma had always admired Jack's resolve, but she could sense he was on the brink of retreat. The way he chewed the inside of his cheek betrayed his unease. She understood that trepidation, the weight of the unknown, had a unique sting. "I've been piecing together stories, Jack," the stranger continued, leaning in slightly, "about your great-uncle's true legacy and the family dynamics that may affect your claim. It's not as straightforward as you think." Emma felt a ripple of urgency wash over her. The potential for revelation both for Jack and for herself was a tantalizing prospect. Yet, it brought on a familiar dread. The kind of dread that stems from the fear of change unleashing a relentless torrent of memories long buried. "Who are you?" Jack repeated, his voice stronger, reinforced by an undercurrent of self-protection. "Names don't matter, but possibilities do," the stranger replied, maintaining eye contact. "You can stay in the dark with your family's secrets, Or you can step into the light and take control. Taking control. The phrase reverberated through Emma's mind. Control felt foreign, almost unattainable at times in her life. She had settled into a predictable routine that made her feel safe but conformed to convention. A voice within her urged her to be bold, to demand a higher stake in her own life while grappling with the repercussions of that audacity. "Jack, this could mean knowing your own potential, your own worth," Emma interjected, catching both of them off guard. "A chance to reshape not just the inheritance but how you view your future." "Why not listen?" Jack's brow furrowed deeper. He hesitated, searching for the right words. Emma could see the internal conflict playing out, torn between the cautious path and the winding road of opportunity. "I'm not saying I trust you," Jack addressed the stranger, resolve returning to his voice. "But if there's even a chance my family's issues have been affecting my life, then I want to know." "Good choice," the stranger acknowledged, his expression relaxing a fraction. But Emma felt the ominous undertow in his words, the implication that the information would come at a price. A wave of determination surged within Emma as she acknowledged her own hidden aspirations while confronting the rivalry between the safety of familiarity and the peril of the unknown. She would not only assist Jack in navigating these murky waters, she would find her own footing in the process. What if the encounter was a chance to carve out new opportunities not merely for Jack, but for herself as well? The rain drummed softly against the diner's windows, setting the pace for a heart that beat enthusiastically in anticipation of greater things to come. Yet a nagging doubt lingered. What was she willing to sacrifice to uncover the truths ahead? As the stranger leaned back, crossing his arms with a satisfied grin, Emma caught a glimmer of something more in his eyes, a riddle of mischief and knowledge. This was only the beginning, and she felt an urgent call to define her own journey amidst the chaos. Jack's steady gaze met hers. "You ready to hear what the past has in store for us?" Emma nodded, her pulse racing not just from fear but from the thrill of transformation. But deep down, she questioned if they were truly prepared for the complexities of the past converging with the present. Something was about to be uncovered, and she was about to take the first step into a realm where not just Jack's future, but her own would be irrevocably altered. As the stranger leaned forward, the stakes climbing higher, Emma braced herself for the unexpected directions this revelation might take them both. Would they emerge stronger, or would they unravel further? In that moment, the ambiguity of it all felt electrifying, even unsettling. She could barely contain herself as the stranger began to speak again, his voice dropping to a whisper, ripe with secrets that promised to unearth not only Jack's legacy, but her own unfulfilled ambitions. "Let me tell you about your great-uncle's will." As the stranger's words hung heavily in the air, Emma's mind raced, spinning webs of possibilities. The proposition of delving into Jack's history felt like tugging on a thread that might unravel the very fabric of what she considered her identity. This wasn't just about Jack's inheritance. It swept her into a narrative that made her question her own perceived limitations. How many times had she allowed herself to fade into the background, complying with the mundane expectations of her life? Turning her gaze back to Jack, she found him staring intently at the stranger, his curiosity battling suspicion. Emma admired his resolve and felt a sense of urgency swell within her. This was a moment, a catalyst, and she didn't want to be a passive observer. "What exactly do you know?" Jack demanded, defiance edging into his tone. The shift from doubt to eagerness was a sight to behold. The journey ahead wouldn't just lay bare Jack's family secrets. It offered an opening for her to explore the uncharted maps of her own potential. "Your great-uncle had dreams," the stranger continued, eyes glimmering under the dim diner lights, "dreams that went beyond wealth. He intended to set a course for creating a legacy that reflected the very essence of who he was, which may have implications for you now." Emma's heartbeat quickened. What if this legacy could also be a touchstone for her own aspirations? Each revelation offered a flash of insight that illuminated her self-imposed limits. The unspoken truth was evident. She had been merely existing, allowing fear and uncertainty to hijack her agency. "So, what's the catch?" Jack asked, skepticism lacing his words. Emma appreciated his wariness. She shared his instinct for survival. No gift came without strings, and her acute awareness of this fact injected caution into the air. There are aspects of your family's history that you want to hear, the stranger said, unflinching. But if you choose to confront the past, you will have an opportunity to reshape your future. This will not come without difficulties. Courage isn't merely an absence of fear, it's the willingness to act in spite of it. Emma felt the shadows of her own anxieties whispering, trying to sideline her enthusiasm. This was a juncture where she could lift the veil obscuring her potential to stand shoulder to shoulder with Jack as he navigated the precarious trails of inheritance. Would stepping into the light expose where she had been holding back? Listen, Jack, she said tentatively, this isn't just about you anymore. We've both been wandering through our lives, too afraid to take risks. This might be our chance not just to understand who you are, but for me, too. What if we approach this together? Jack directed his gaze at her, an expression of surprise flickering across his features, almost as if he hadn't considered that she might also have something to gain. It was in that moment of connection Emma realized what she hoped to reclaim: her voice, her confidence, her purpose. Fine, let us find out what this is about. But I want to go down alone, he replied, determination solidifying. Emma felt a rush of relief and empowerment flood over her, a pact emerging not just to unravel Jack's legacy, but to ignite her awakening journey. Together, she affirmed, her heart buoyed by the prospect of solidarity. The path ahead was uncertain yet brimming with promise, and for the first time in a long while, she was prepared to step into the unknown. As the stranger leaned closer, he began whispering again, a low rumble of revelations tinged with a sense of monumental change. Emma's anticipation mirrored the storm brewing outside. But before he could finish, another voice broke in, piercing the atmosphere and jolting them both. We're not the only ones in this room with unresolved histories. Emma turned, eyes wide, as a shadow shifted in the corner. The tension heightening, she felt the pulse of her moment shift again. Ready or not, the journey was advancing, and she was about to confront something much larger than she had anticipated. What other threads were intertwined in the fabric of their lives? Emma's gaze lingered on the figure emerging from the corner, a man with sharp features partially obscured by the dim lighting of the diner. Her heart raced not just from fear but from an exhilarating curiosity that coursed through her. This encounter felt pivotal, like a key unlocking chambers she had kept closed for too long. Who are you? Jack asked, his voice steady yet tense, revealing his naturally protective instincts. Emma admired that about him. His bravery seemed to summon her own. The stranger took a step forward, flashing a cautious smile. I'm someone who knows a little more than you might expect. Your past and mine are interwoven, though perhaps in ways you don't yet understand. Emma exchanged glances with Jack, feeling a shared pulse of intrigue. What could this man possibly know that would link their lives in such profound ways? Go on, Jack urged, his skepticism heightening the stakes. Your great-uncle's dreams were not just lofty ideals. They were grounded in a reality that touches everyone's lives in this room, in ways both beautiful and tragic, he shared, pausing for dramatic effect, allowing the gravity of his words to settle. Emma sensed the swell of both fear and possibility in the air. Her fingers instinctively drummed against the tabletop, a nervous habit she had developed from years of indecision. What if this stranger held the answers to the questions that haunted her about Jack, about herself, about the unexplored potential in her soul? Why does this matter to you? She interjected, feeling a surge of conviction. What do you stand to gain from revealing this history? I learned early on, he replied, leaning closer, that the most profound truths are rarely comfortable. I watched too many people miss their chance to confront painful realities and, in doing so, crippled their true potential. If you want to grasp what you're capable of, you must first face the shadows. A chill ran through Emma. Shadows had always felt like a cloak she voluntarily wore, hiding her aspirations beneath layers of fear. Yet, with this new momentum, a flicker of defiance sparked to life inside her. She didn't want to flinch away anymore. What are you implying? Jack pressed, leveling his stare at the stranger, scrutinizing every word. Emma could see Jack's wheels turning, a mix of incredulity and concern coursing through him. Your great-uncle created a foundation, A legacy dedicated to mentorship, the stranger revealed. He took risks in life, risking everything to support individuals who showed promise but lacked resources, much like you too. Emma's heart raced faster. Mentorship had always been a passion of hers, a dream undermined by the noise of self-doubt. How do we access this legacy? She asked, still wrestling with the lightness of hope and the heaviness of reality. The man's gaze softened, a blend of understanding and recognition. The foundation still exists, but it's entangled in bureaucracy. To get what you want, you'll need to navigate a series of challenges, confront old demons, and perhaps even reconcile with those you thought would never understand. Her mind turned to the complexities of her past, the echoes of unmet expectations clawing at the edges of her resolve. Was she prepared to unearth those buried emotions? Could she face the people she distanced herself from out of fear? Jack, sensing her hesitation, placed a reassuring hand over hers. We'll take this journey together. Whatever it takes. An unexpected warmth surged through her. Standing in this moment with Jack felt like an invocation, a call to arms against not just their shared fears but their burgeoning potential. All right, let us do it, she declared, her voice cutting through the air with newfound strength. But if we're doing this, we're doing it all the way. As the stranger nodded, the reality of their pact settled in. They were now bound not just by intention but by the weight of their pasts, and the promise of the future. If you wish to uncover your potential, you must be prepared for the truths that wait ahead, the stranger warned, leaning back. The part of your past you didn't want to confront might be exactly what sets you free. With that, Emma felt an impending challenge loom larger than before, veering closer with each tick of the clock. She realized she was standing not merely at the edge of another chapter, but directly on the brink of a transformational journey. Next step, she mused, her energy amplified, we need to track down that foundation and discover how to unlock it. What if the answer lies in facing what we fear the most? The haze of uncertainty danced around Emma as she and Jack left the diner. Despite the rain drumming incessantly on the pavement, a sense of resolve began to bloom within her, pushing through the shadows of doubt that had clung to her for so long. The weight of the stranger's words clung to her, heavy like the humid air before a storm. Where do we even begin? Jack asked, glancing at her with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The streetlights flickered in the twilight, casting a shadow that seemed to both loom and beckon. First, we should do some research on the foundation. Dig into its history, see what connections we might still have, Emma suggested, her mind racing. There has to be something, documents, former employees, anything. Jack nodded, taking out his phone. I'll start looking for information on any existing websites or social media pages related to it. His commitment steadied her resolve. Having Jack by her side transformed what could have been a daunting solo endeavor into a shared mission, and together their collective purpose began to take shape. As they walked, Emma's memories twisted and turned within her. The thought of confronting her past, the disappointment of faded aspirations, flared with intensity. Could she really return to the shadows she avoided for so long? She scrunched her eyes shut, fighting against the tide of hesitation. It was time to stop running. For the next few days they immersed themselves in research, sifting through articles, old press releases, and records even long after she finished work at the bookstore. As Emma combed through each document, her passion for mentorship rekindled, igniting a flame that had lain dormant. She began to write notes on potential goals for the foundation, ideas for programs that could help aspiring talents like her, individuals seeking a chance to shine. I think it's time we get out of the digital world and talk to some people, Jack suggested one evening, as they buried their heads in various notebooks surrounded by stacks of papers in her cluttered apartment. There must be someone who can lead us closer to the heart of this foundation. Right, Emma breathed, feeling her pulse quicken at the thought. We should talk to anyone who has been involved, former mentors, beneficiaries. If the legacy is as meaningful as it sounds, some aspect of it must still be alive. The very idea of reaching out frightened her. What if all she found were the remnants of failure? Yet she knew she could no longer shrink back. Each interaction would be more than a search for information. It would be a confrontation with her own trajectory. She let the possibilities fill her thoughts, intermingled with anxieties but suffused with a potent longing to uncover the truths she'd long pushed aside. As they reached out, starting with local libraries and community boards, Emma felt a small pulse of excitement build. Each conversation offered her pieces of a puzzle she had been too afraid to confront. It fueled her determination. While some of the connections proved fruitless, others sparked surprising insights and even unexpected friendships. One elderly woman they met at a community center had been a mentee of her great-uncle and spoke with a gentle wisdom that brought tears to Emma's eyes, sharing stories that illuminated a lost facet of her family's values. That man knew the importance of courage. He taught us that giving wasn't about sacrifice but investment in ourselves, the woman said, her voice trembling with nostalgia. Emma found her heart swelling. She was beginning to see the flickers of the legacy, how her great-uncle believed fiercely in potential. It wasn't just about wanting to help. It was an urgent call to arms for passion and compassion, intertwined. What if we chose to carry that forward? She asked Jack later that evening, the spark of a vision igniting within her. We should host a small gathering. We could invite those who were involved with the foundation or who want to start their journey. It could be the rekindling of the light. Jack's eyes widened in enthusiasm. That's brilliant! We could create a space for mentorship to thrive again. Emma felt a shift. With every scrape of her pen against the paper, her dreams were not only unearthing the truth of her past but shaping a future driven by purpose and connection. Yet, just as her spirits soared, a knot tightened in her chest. The looming fear of rejection lingered. What if no one showed up? What if her attempts crumbled among expectations weighed down by history? As she prepared her outreach, the uncertainty bled through her veins, threatening to stifle the confidence she had begun to build. She thought of all the stories left untold, all the promises unfulfilled. Would the very act of facing her past be worth the risk of encountering those fears yet again? Next step, she reminded herself softly, we have to reach out and prepare for both acceptance and rejection. This journey isn't merely about unearthing a legacy, it's about finding the courage to own it, for better or worse. Taking a deep breath, Emma looked out the window, watching the nighttime clouds dance across the moon. The journey was turning into something more expansive, a chance to carve her own space in a history that had once paralyzed her. But deep down, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that greater obstacles loomed ahead, waiting just outside her line of sight. How easily the bite of doubt could seep in again. Would she have what it takes to walk through it? Tomorrow would reveal more than she could imagine, but the question gnawed at her, was she truly ready to handle what lay on the other side? Emma awoke the next morning with a dissonance that tinged her thoughts like the harsh rays of dawn flooding through her window. She was eager yet hesitant. Today, she would make the first outreach, and the uncertainty of how it would unfold gnawed at her insides. She picked up her notebook, filled with ideas and names, pacing across her small living room, each step echoing the rhythm of her racing heart. Jack had offered to draft emails to the contacts they had collected, but something about the thought of someone else speaking on her behalf felt too distant, too detached. This was her journey, her story waiting to be reshaped. She needed to grasp the words that could open doors to people she had barely begun to connect with. With determination hardening her resolve, Emma sat down with her laptop. Memories of those conversations stirred within her. The elderly woman's voice replayed in her mind. Investment in ourselves. It felt essential to invest in her own narrative from this moment forward. Drawing a deep breath, she opened a blank email, one she hoped would lead her into the heart of that history she was desperately trying to reclaim. Dear Ms. Rivera, she typed, feeling the familiar thrill of writing while the shadows of self-doubt crept around her. She drafted a pitch that balanced her urgency with sincerity, detailing her search for connections related to her great-uncle's foundation, her yearning to revive it, and her desire to gather insights and stories from those who once flourished under its influence. As she hit send, a wave of vulnerability washed over her. With that email, she had opened a channel to her past, but also to the possibility of rejection. What if her efforts drew blank stares or disinterest? Despite these fears, she had to believe that her pursuit of understanding wouldn't culminate in silence. The days stretched before her unremarkably. She distracted herself with errands, tending to mundane chores that helped ground her. Amidst her tasks, her phone buzzed a surprising reply from Ms. Rivera, whose warm tone flooded her with hope. She agreed to meet in a nearby cafe, excited to recount tales from her days with the Foundation. Emma's heart soared. This could be the conversation that illuminated even more of the untold legacy. Arriving at the cafe, Emma took a moment to absorb the surroundings. The aroma of fresh coffee surged her senses, and the vibrant chatter of patrons created a comforting background hum. Yet, she felt an inner conflict rise up. Positive anticipation collided with the specter of fear. What if the stories turned cold? Would Ms. Rivera share only nostalgia tinged with regret? When Ms. Rivera arrived, her warm smile sliced through Emma's worries. They exchanged pleasantries, and as they settled into conversation, Emma felt the walls around her fears begin to crumble. The woman's eyes sparkled as she recalled her youthful dreams, the hopes she harbored when guided by Emma's great-uncle. There was an underlying resonance in their shared experiences, those yearning to succeed, to matter, to inspire others. But the past also told darker tales, moments of struggle, the burden of expectations, and the sharp edge of disappointment. Despite the optimism that pervaded their conversations, it became clear that rebuilding the Foundation required not only a resurgence of passion but the acknowledgement of its vulnerabilities. Sometimes, even the brightest flame needs nurturing. History has a way of flickering out when we forget to breathe life into it, Ms. Rivera observed. You're different, Emma. You have a chance to be that breath. The words echoed in Emma's heart. She realized that for her to resurrect her great-uncle's vision, she needed to embrace its flaws, inject her authenticity into it, and be prepared for the messiness inherent in the revival of lost dreams. She wasn't just piecing together a legacy, she was crafting her identity anew through the Foundation. As they finished their coffee, Ms. Rivera invited Emma to a small gathering of former mints, where insights could blossom into a collective purpose. Emma's excitement bubbled, but tinged with the realities of myriad failures that had shadowed her past. Could she give life to this Foundation without being stifled by its history? The question burned even brighter now. Later, as Emma walked back home, her mind whirled filled with possibilities. Each avenue opened a door to not only retrieve her past but to define her future as well, with truths that felt raw and complex. And yet, an undercurrent of apprehension surged within her, reminding her of the monumental task ahead. Tomorrow, she would take the next step, attending the gathering, standing with her questions, her aspirations, and her fears. The uncertainty was daunting, and part of her longed to back away from the precipice of change. But it wasn't just about her past anymore. It was about redefining what it meant to move forward, towards something she could call her own, no matter the shadows that lingered. As her footsteps echoed on the pavement, another unsettling thought whispered in her mind: what if, amid her searching for acceptance, she uncovered secrets that threatened to unravel everything she'd begun weaving together? Would she be brave enough to confront that as well? The morning sun drenched Emma in a warm embrace as she prepared for the gathering. Each passing moment quickened her pulse, igniting a rush of anxiety and excitement. A desire to emulate Ms. Rivera's strength surged within her. Yet deeper beneath that yearning thrummed a fear of inadequacy, of being unworthy of her great-uncle's legacy. As she stood in front of her mirror, adjusting the collar of her blouse, Emma caught a glimpse of herself. More than the reflections that stared back was a flame of possibility. The tension in her gut hinted at the importance of this day, a point of transition. She wasn't stepping simply into a gathering, she was stepping into her future. The cafe buzzed with life when Emma arrived, the air thick with the rich scent of coffee and pastries. Members of the former Foundation were already scattered in clusters, sharing laughter and stories. A voice in her head urged her to retreat, to hide behind the safety of anonymity. But another voice, quieter yet more resolute, whispered promises of reclamation. Emma approached the group hesitantly, her heart racing. Conversations swirled around her, fragments of shared memories floating like distant echoes. She wanted to contribute to these narratives, to inject her own voice into the tapestry of histories they were unfolding. Yet, would they accept her? The question could either ground her or push her further into the shadows. Gathering her breath, she caught Ms. Rivera's eye from across the room. The woman gestured for Emma to join her, surrounded by a mix of older faces she recognized from the stories she'd heard. Their smiles encouraged her. It was as if welcoming an emerging artist among the masterpieces. Emma felt a rush of adrenaline, a calling that urged her to rise to the occasion. "Everyone, this is Emma," Ms. Rivera announced, spotlighting her with warmth that felt like a shield against the creeping doubt. "She's the one I told you about, working to revive the Foundation's mission." A hush fell over the group, and Emma's heart thundered in her chest. She had envisioned this very moment, yet the reality felt overwhelmingly daunting. Thank you," she started, her voice wavering slightly. "I'm excited to learn more about your experiences." Silence lingered for a heartbeat as she scanned their faces. Each seemed imbued with stories of perseverance and loss, triumphs painted alongside scars. One gentleman leaned forward, his eyes reflecting a mix of curiosity and skepticism. "What makes you so sure you can bring it back?" he asked, sharp and probing. The question hung heavy in her mind like a weight she hadn't anticipated. She had just begun weaving her thoughts about revival. Could she articulate the vision? Would anyone understand? Gathering her thoughts, she chose honesty. "I don't have all the answers, I'm still figuring everything out. But I believe the stories and lessons of the past can guide us." She felt the tension in the room shift when Ms. Rivera interjected. "Emma's passion for this foundation, for her great-uncle's legacy, is genuine. I see so much of his spirit in her." The man reevaluated her, and slowly, the group softened around her. They began to share their own stories, their struggles, the mistakes made, and lost opportunities that haunted them. Emma absorbed the lessons hidden within each tale, piecing them together like a puzzle that mapped a shared history. However, as the conversations continued, the earlier rush of hope was tainted by a slow realization looming on the horizon. What if their past successes also revealed darker undercurrents? What if some of their memories bore the weight of betrayal or misjudgment? Would her endeavor to revive the Foundation mean revisiting those painful truths? Before Emma could spiral further into anxiety, she refocused her thoughts on the moment at hand. Each shared story fueled her resolve to challenge not only the Foundation's legacy but also her own. The gathering shifted to brainstorming about future initiatives, a beacon of potential illuminating the air. Excitement ignited within Emma as she began to act not simply as an audience, but as a collaborator with her own voice and ideas to contribute. However, as the energy surged, there was a fleeting sensation of cold. In the midst of the warmth of conversation, a shadow loomed, an unspoken tension amongst older members, darting glances that seemed filled with unvoiced history. Emma sensed she was standing on the tipping point of entry into something beautifully intricate but potentially fragile. The stories would not only uplift, they might fold into something darker. Would she be brave enough to seek the truth within that fragility? As she engaged, a shiver rippled through her. What awaited discovery beyond the polished anecdotes they were sharing? What secrets could uproot her burgeoning sense of self and mission? Emma's determination solidified. She wouldn't settle for half-truths. There was more lurking beneath the surface, and she would dive deep enough to find it. The next steps lay ahead like a winding road, thrilling yet treacherous, a journey entrenched in complexities she couldn't yet fully comprehend. However, one thing resonated with clarity: she would face those complexities head-on. Stepping forward, she was about to initiate a discussion about all these intricacies when Emma's phone buzzed unexpectedly. The message glowed ominously on her screen, a notification from an unknown number with just 3 words. "I know everything." Emma's pulse quickened as her eyes fixed on the screen. The words seemed loaded with implications, each letter a silent thunder. What had she gotten herself into? Who was this person, and what did they know? Questions swirled in her mind, threatening to drown out the conversations around her. "Is everything all right?" Ms. Rivera's voice cut through the fog of her thoughts. Emma forced a smile, tucking her phone away like a dangerous secret. It was only a text, yet it felt like a ticking clock, counting down the moments before inevitable revelations. "Just a distraction," she managed, conscious of keeping her tone steady. Around her, the conversation continued, punctuated by laughter and a sense of shared history. It felt comforting but also disorienting. This space, once filled with warmth and possibilities, now felt precariously balanced on the edge of something unknown. Determination surged within Emma. She would not let a message define her moment. Shifting her focus back to the gathering, she listened carefully as another member recounted their early days with the Foundation, their dreams tinged with a sense of loss that mirrored the shadows creeping inside her. Without fully realizing it, her mind began to align the pieces: their history, her ancestry, a legacy weighing heavily on her shoulders, and the whispers of the past reminding her of its complexities. She yearned to peel back layers of truth, not just to revive the Foundation, but to uncover who she was becoming amidst it all. "Emma, would you like to share your own vision?" Ms. Rivera's gentle prompt pulled her back. The room quieted, eyes shifting toward her, brimming with curiosity and expectation. How could she respond with clarity when uncertainty loomed large? "Absolutely," she started, her voice barely a whisper but gaining strength with each word. "I want to reshape what this Foundation means for our community today, to honor the past while making it relevant to now." She felt the room lean closer, pulses syncing with the rhythm of her words. "But I'm not naive. I know that every legacy comes with its challenges, and there might be darker chapters we need to address." As she spoke, she could sense the shift in the dynamics, their collective energy oscillating between anticipation and a hint of trepidation. Would they appreciate her willingness to confront the truth, or would it alienate her from this newfound circle? Whatever the answer, she felt an undeniable resolve. She would embrace the history, even its shadows. The older gentleman tilted his head, a flicker of respect crossing his face. "That's not something many are brave enough to propose. There are skeletons in every closet, and we have plenty." He chuckled, yet the gravity of the statement cut through the laughter. "I'm willing to listen," Emma replied, her tone steady. "I believe that understanding our missteps can only empower us moving forward." Each word felt like a step deeper into uncharted waters, and she could feel the edges of her comfort zone stretching. As the group delved into more discussions about initiatives, Emma's mind remained fixated on the text. She needed to know who it was referring to, and what secrets lay cloaked in the shadows. The prospect of digging deeper ignited her sense of urgency, but it also sparked a flicker of apprehension. What if discovering the truth meant shaking the very foundation she yearned to revive? Deciding to tackle the dual challenges before her was crucial. She couldn't ignore the gathering momentum among her peers while hunting for answers that might shake the pillars of history. Emma resolved to confront both, enhance her understanding of the past, and explore the possibilities of her uncertain future. In the coming days, Emma envisioned speaking with the members individually, drawing out their stories. They were her allies, potential guideposts in navigating both the Foundation's legacy and her message of renewal. But for now, all she could do was concentrate on the significance of the present moment, just as the conversation began to swell with excitement and new ideas. The undeniable pull of her phone called her back, the screen still flickering with that chilling omen. "I know everything." What did they want, and how much did they truly know? Emma's heart raced again. She had a choice to make: dive into the unknown or keep her head above water, gazing at the past in safety. She felt the rising urgency. Something was coming, and she was determined to be at the forefront of discovery. As the weight of her decision stretched across her thoughts, she knew one thing. Soon she would have to choose how to respond, not just to the message but to all the truths that awaited her. The time would come when she would face whatever shadows hovered over her family's legacy. With renewed purpose, Emma resolved to engage deeply with each story shared and each confrontation that loomed. All she needed was one more sign, a thread to pull, to unravel the intricate tapestry of her past. And while the whispers of uncertainty echoed within her, a fresh potency surged. She was not afraid of finding out what lay beneath the surface. Suddenly, an idea struck her, an initiative that might begin to address both her goals and the questions pulling at her. But just as she began to formulate the direction of her next thought, the gathering erupted in laughter, drowning out her inspiration. Would the answers be found in humor, or would she need to plunge deeper into the complex stories awaiting her? Only time would tell, but within her, the fire of determination blazed brighter than ever before. As days passed after the gathering, a quiet determination resonated within Emma as she navigated the complexities of her dual mission, reviving her great-uncle's foundation and uncovering the secrets that intertwined with her own past. She set a plan in motion to meet with each former mentee individually, inviting them for coffee and open-hearted conversation. By sharing personal stories, Emma sought to create a synergy that would not only breathe life back into the foundation but also forge her identity as a steward of her great-uncle's legacy. With each conversation, Emma unearthed the layers of histories, all containing nuggets of wisdom but also unaddressed vulnerabilities. One elderly gentleman recounted the failures that had marred the foundation's efforts, bearing the weight of unfulfilled potential. Each encounter fed her resolve. She began to weave a proposal outlining their shared aspirations while addressing the shadows they confronted in their journeys. Yet, the message from the unknown number haunted her. It lingered in the back of her mind, crackling with unanswered questions that demanded confrontation. She decided she couldn't let fear dictate her actions. With sharpened resolve, she was prepared to respond to the text and face whatever truths it might unveil. This was no longer simply about Jack. She was ready to sidestep the eclipsing shadows that had stalked her for too long. Fingers trembling slightly, she typed back, "Who is this? What do you know?" Moments passed, weighty with anticipation, before the reply came. "Meet me at Riverside Park tomorrow at noon. I can give you answers, but only if you're ready to hear them." The uncertainty of the encounter both terrified and invigorated Emma. This was her chance to take control of the narrative, both of Jack's legacy and of her own path. She resolved to attend, welcoming the challenge that waited for her at the park. Her sense of agency surged. She felt an executive clarity that radiated possibility. The following day, the sun illuminated Riverside Park as Emma approached the designated meeting spot, a quiet bench shaded by lofty trees. She carried the weight of personal ambition mixed with trepidation, aware that she was on the brink of a revelation that could redefine everything. As she waited, she mentally articulated her purpose. This was her journey, and there was no turning back. When a figure approached, her heart raced instinctively. The man was familiar, though she couldn't place him. He sat, casting an appraising glance at her. "You're Emma," he stated, a hint of recognition sparked in his eyes. "I know why you're here." "Who are you?" she inquired, her voice steady but laced with urgency. "I'm an old friend of your great-uncle. I've seen the ways that his dreams crumbled under the weight of secrets," he replied, the gravity of his words settling between them. "You're about to dive into a legacy that is far more complicated than you realize. But to succeed in reviving it, you must answer questions many have avoided." Emma swallowed hard, knowing she was at a crossroads where courage and vulnerability would collide. "I'm ready to confront whatever I need to." With a deliberative breath, he leaned forward, revealing the complexities of the past, the trials that plagued the foundation, and a web of familial relationships that cut deeper than she ever expected. "Your great-uncle believed in mentorship, but the conversations he never had, the pains he concealed, have caught up with this legacy. If you're serious about honoring him, you must also reconcile with the people he wronged, the dreams he overlooked." The weight hung heavily, but instead of retreating into self-doubt, Emma felt a rush of clarity. Each fractured story became part of her mission. She would not only resurrect a founding legacy but also embark on a journey of healing, confronting the ghosts tied to her family's past while reinvigorating its essence. Days melded into weeks. Emma crafted an extensive plan, no longer just about rekindling her uncle's dreams but about forming an authentic narrative that included history, honesty, and healing. She set dates to revisit each former mentee for deeper connections and to invite them to participate in a new initiative, one built on community mentorship, built not just with ambition but with an emphasis on understanding and support. She drew up proposals, infused with clarity and determination. She also made a conscious choice to address her fears about confronting her past, not just the unknown sender's message, but also the validity of the memories that had hindered her growth. The very heart of renewal was in authenticity. The past must be acknowledged, not erased. As she shared her plan with Jack, he marveled at her initiative. "You're really taking charge, aren't you? I believe in you, Emma. This is you stepping into the light." With each stride toward revitalizing the legacy, Emma worked on herself as well. She learned to reel in the doubts, embrace her passion for mentorship, and allow herself to be real, not just a reflection of her great-uncle's dreams, but as an individual on her own path. She was cultivating a community, one that emphasized not just success but mutual growth and understanding. At the Foundation's revitalization event, Emma stood on stage, the crowd rippling with eager anticipation. She opened by acknowledging the shadows and the mistakes, creating a sense of kinship. The legacy was reclaimed that day, with spirits soaring and voices resonating, filled with laughter and shared aspirations. Afterward, she finally sought out the sender of the text, sending a sincere follow-up inquiry, ready to face whatever the unknown might cast upon her. Emma felt empowered as the response came back. This time, it read simply, "I'm proud of you. Let us speak." The waits for a life of dreams unfulfilled and burdens carried alone was over. For the first time, Emma stood on solid ground, transformed, equipped with a deeper understanding of herself and the strength to redefine her family's legacy. She welcomed the future armed with the knowledge that she would guide others toward unlocking their own potential, while embarking on her own radiant journey. The cycle completed, she had confronted her fears and emerged victorious, ready to lead others in claiming their own stories of resilience and growth. This was not just an achievement, it was an awakening and undeniable triumph. Emma smiled as inspiration coursed through her, radiating a distinct mantra: "Only by facing our shadows can we truly shine." Now, as you reflect on Emma's journey, it's essential you don't forget your own potential to create change in your life. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It really matters. Comment your reactions and theories about Emma's conclusion. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this resolution. You need to subscribe now. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Don't wait even one more second to share.